Okay, I'm unmuted.
All right, there you go.
Very good. Okay, the April regular meeting of the Greenwich Township Land Use Board is called to order.
This is the regular meeting of the Land Use Board of the Township of Greenwich. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that a notice was published in the Express Times and Star Ledger newspaper. Notice was posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board in the Township Administration Building in Greenwich Township, New Jersey, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk.
Okay. The review of rules and procedures, that's on the website, so I don't think we need to read that whole thing. Susanna, I would just point anyone that has a question about that to the link on the homepage at the Greenwich website.
Okay.
Okay, and then roll call.
Paul Beam, Class 1.
Here.
Joseph Cicchello, Class 2.
Here.
Frank Marchetta, Class 3.
Here.
Chairman Ray Buckwalter, Class 4.
Here.
Bruce Williams, Class 4.
Here.
Kathy Colin, Class 4.
Here.
Gary Hill, Class 4.
Here.
Mark Scuderi, Class 4.
Here.
Joseph Fiamma, Class 4.
Here.
Jeremy Blunt, Alternate 1. Bill
He's
Cognac,
absent. He let me know he wouldn't be here.
Bill Cognac, Alternate 2.
Here.
Pam Peslis, Alternate 3.
Here.
Andrea Sherla, Alternate 4.
Here.
And Board Attorney, Mr. Drill.
I'm here.
Okay, so I need a motion and a second to excuse Jeremy Blunt. He did contact me ahead of the meeting. He had a conflict and said he wouldn't be able to be here.
Barry Hill motion.
I'll second.
Who made the second?
Susanna, you could decide to give it to Mark or Bruce. I think that was a pretty close tie, and then I'll just
Okay.
ask for all in favor,
Aye.
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 opposed, abstain, motion carries. Jeremy was officially excused. The next order of business is the minutes for the January 11th.
February 11th.
I'm sorry, February 11th. Yeah, for the February 11th meeting. So are there any comments, corrections, amplifications, or suggestions for the minutes? Based on the dead silence, you're either all muted or there aren't any. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as written.
So moved.
Was that you, Joe?
Yeah. Motion.
Okay, so Joe Fiamma, motion, Joe Torello, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Okay, let the record show Mark Scuderi abstained. And the motion is approved. Susanna, do we have any escrows that need to be approved for today's meeting? Let me preface that by saying that, just to let everybody on the board know, Frank's probably, I'm sure, well aware of this, but Lisa, the township clerk, contacted me, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And she said there was some need to revamp our escrow process, which I have to agree. Over 15 years of doing this, I've seen some issues with escrows over the years. So without getting too far into the weeds, she took the bull by the horns and was going to review the process with the CFO and the other folks at the township. And she got back to us with a revised process for escrows. I've asked Susanna to, be prepared to manage that as the secretary and be our escrow expert, so to speak. But in a nutshell, from 30,000 feet, we'll be reviewing invoices and escrows in the meetings going forward and voting to approve payments. So this way, everyone on the board will be aware of what the invoices are coming in and at least have some visibility of the status of these accounts. So,
Yeah, Ray, the question is my question is the board not only going to approve the invoices, but are they also going to look to see what the escrow balance in the individual applicant's escrow account is?
I would say yes. I would defer to Susanna because I read the procedure, but I haven't memorized it. I think part of it is looking at the escrow accounts.
Yeah, so I think, John, what they're gonna do is they're gonna send me like a monthly up-to-date balance. And then also reflect what you guys are billing to make sure that if they need to be replenished, we would let the CFO know, so that's handled before the applicant gets heard on the
Right, but
agenda.
I read the thing and it said that the board members were also going to look at it. So my suggestion is absolutely have them look at the billings, but also let the board members see where these escrow balances are also. Just give them, in other words, give them both.
So you mean the total amount in their account?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I would assume that yeah, I'll make sure that that's done that way, because that would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, so this is brand new, so I don't know if we'll be doing this in May or possibly June. We have to have the reports in place. There may be some cleanup that has to be done with the escrow accounting. But once we start doing that, I would expect that we would have as a standing agenda item at the beginning of a meeting, a review of the escrow accounts. And then the professionals can weigh in if there's any expected additional significant billing against those accounts. And then we would have payments that are due to the professionals that we would have to approve. And the board would vote to authorize those payments. That's how it's intended to proceed, right, Susanna?
Right, I think that's the overall, just for more people to have a grasp on what's going on, so that if it does need to be replenished, we address it, yeah. I mean,
Yep.
I guess we'll see when I get the information from the CFO. The first meeting might be a little tricky, but I think we'll get.
No, I'm sure we'll have to, kind of feel our way through it the first couple of times. I think the only question I had with the process, and it's probably not a crisis, but if we do have a meeting that we skip, then obviously those invoices wouldn't be approved and it could be delayed paying professionals because, the new process will require that the board vote to release payments to.
You know what you could do, Ray? If you know you're going to be missing a meeting, you could ask the board to pass a motion delegating the responsibility to you and the vice chair in the event the board can't meet on a month.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any objection to that. I don't want to usurp any authority from the board, but at the end of the day, if we need to expedite payments for some reason, maybe that would be an option. Frank, do you have an opinion on that?
No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, I mean, I think it used to be your responsibility to do all that, right? I mean, as the liaison, you were the one that had to sign all the bills, correct?
Well, I think we had discussions in the past that we should run them all past either you or the committee.
Yeah, so Lisa's process is we're running them by the whole board. So, and that's fine. So I would say, Susanna, if you could let Lisa know that in the event that a meeting is canceled for some reason, that the chairman and the vice chairman and the secretary and the liaison will review the open invoices and release any that will be past due on. If we don't have a meeting, so we're not, late paying bills.
Okay, all right, so when I send her that email, I'll just CC you and the vice chair and the liaison as well.
Yep. I don't think that would be too complicated.
We will see.
Yeah, the proof's in the pudding. And just a question, I think there was some discussion, and I know Mike and Kendra aren't here, but there was some discussion about having a walkthrough at the Dumont site to discuss changes to the plan. Has anyone else been at Frank or you or anyone else been involved in that? I'm thinking maybe Paul and Frank, because you guys are on the township committee.
They had to make changes because of some county issues with where they had the water basin. So I think he was going to come and present that to the town committee. It was changes required by the county.
Right, just so you understand though, they only got preliminary site plan approval.
Right.
They have to come back for final site plan approval anyway. Those changes are going to be, whatever changes they're going to make, I don't know about them. Mike would really know. But whatever changes they're gonna make, they're gonna have to put them on the plans that they submit for final approval. And I hadn't heard about a walkthrough, but that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so long since we discussed that. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone the details of what was discussed for that Dumont Road site. But I do recall that we deferred some of the judgment about the landscape plan in particular to the planner, which was Beth at the time, to work that out with the applicant and then come back for final. So I was a little concerned because someone, and I don't remember who, someone in the development project sent Kendra 2 plans. One was the old plan and one was the new plan. And I didn't have to look at them very long to realize that they stripped out almost all the plant material in the new plan was removed. The old plan had an extensive list of plant material, trees, shrubs, plantings, and so on. And the revised plan, that list went from here to like here. So it looked like they really stripped a lot of the plantings out. And there may be very valid reasons why they had to do that. I don't know, but it just sent up a red flag to me that someone was, sort of.
Well, let me ask Frank, I mean, I know that in order for them to get their 9%, they had to add a bedroom, okay? So that was definitely a change, which presumably the township agreed to and so on. Were there any other changes that the township agreed to as part of that process that?
But in order to get the financing? No,
Yeah.
that was it. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah, John could.
yeah, Frank's correct.
Well, we can't have a quorum on site when they do the walkthrough.
Correct. And actually, we shouldn't even be, right now we have a quorum, it's a public meeting, but we really shouldn't be talking about any details because number one, everyone in this meeting right now doesn't know, the person who knows the most is the applicant and Mike Finelli. And Mike's not here, so we're just speculating about it.
Yeah, I would agree, John. I was just bringing it up in case anyone knew more about it. The only comment I would have is if anybody's available to participate in that walkthrough, it might not be a bad idea as long as we keep the numbers below
And also,
quorum.
Ray, if everyone wants to do it, you could just schedule it so you never have a quorum. You could have like 3 of them in one day, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever.
Yeah, I guess we could do that. I don't necessarily want the developers to have to run shifts, but and I doubt that everyone has the time or availability to go, but there apparently is going to be a walkthrough. So if anyone's interested in participating in the walkthrough, let Susanna know, and then we'll let the developer and Kendra and Mike know, and then they can figure out how they can accommodate people. We'll leave it at that. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay. And that brings us to,
Yeah, and I think there was activity there today. They've started digging, so I don't know if there's
They're doing,
awareness of
Taking
that.
the bore samples.
they're doing
Okay.
testing.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
for
All right,
perking
well-
and so on.
It's pretty deep, so I was surprised. It's deeper than it was before, so.
I think they have to confirm where they have rock or not. Because I think that's one of the things I heard from Mike is that depending on where rock is, they may have to shift things around. Now, again, this is just third-hand information.
Yeah, well, John, to your point, we don't have Mike here to weigh in on this,
Right.
so,
Right.
we can defer the details, but if anybody's interested in the walkthrough, and I assume Mike and Kendra would both participate in that since she's
would
the
hope
planner
so.
responsible for that, then, and that would be helpful for the board because then you can come back from that walkthrough with a better understanding of if
They are,
anything's changing and why.
The county is meeting with them on the 13th with Mike.
The
and
county's
Kendra.
meeting with the applicant and Mike and Kendra?
Yeah, on the 13th at 2:00. So I may go to that one. So I want.
That's on site, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I know that they were fixing to have a meeting. I didn't remember exactly what day it was, but.
Can you give that to me again? When is that again, Frank?
The 13th.
April 13th, the county is meeting with Ingerman and Mike and Kendra. Or is it John?
Yep.
John, you and Mike?
No,
Let's see.
I think
listen,
it's
Frank,
Kendra.
Yeah, Mike and Kendra. Yeah,
You
Mike.
you gotta find out. The county
got
might not, the county might not want anyone else at that meeting. So when board members go out, I think.
No, I'm not telling board members to go. I'm just telling them that that's what's happening. I just want to let everybody know.
Okay, because I think Joe Fiamma was under the impression that was an available date.
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
I mean, that I don't know. I mean, it
Well,
wouldn't be,
Frank,
I'm
I can
not saying
tell,
it is. I'd have to
Frank,
check.
in general, when the county goes out there,
Okay?
they want to meet with the board professionals, they don't want board members around.
No, and I
it should be
wasn't,
sch-
yep.
It should be
And I wasn't-
scheduled through the board secretary, and she should call the
Yeah.
applicant and have the applicant take the board members through.
Yeah,
Correct.
no, and I wasn't recommending that. I was just telling the board that's what's
Yeah,
going
but
on.
it probably wouldn't make sense to have anybody go out there before they have their meeting
That's right, because the whole purpose of their meeting,
to change everything.
because apparently the county wants certain changes too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to open a can of worms, but I was a little concerned when I saw the changes to those plans that I don't want something to slip in there that we can't come back and address at some point if we have to. So, then I guess the meat of our meeting this evening is to discuss the reexamination of the master plan. So a quick overview. The township committee looked at this project and from a budgetary standpoint, decided that, we're not going to budget a large sum of money in 2021 to have Kendra sort of take this and do it on her own, certainly with input from the board. But what we decided to do was have Kendra give us a framework to have the board discussion. And then I presume at the end of our discussions, we'll keep track of our thoughts and ideas and questions. Questions maybe along the way from time to time, but we will give that information to Kendra, our planner. And at the end of the process, then her billable deliverable project will be to take that and develop a report, master plan update. So everyone should have gotten the memo from Kendra, which is kind of an overview. So by show of hands or shaking of heads or
Yes.
wiggling your nose or whatever, everybody got that, correct?
Mhm.
Everybody has a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think she did a pretty good job of breaking this down into what I would call digestible steps. It's not for me to really determine this in a vacuum, but what I would suggest, what makes sense with me, is that we look at this from a top down and decide, we have a number of meetings between now and the time that we would have to give our input to Kendra so she could prepare. And I think if we can go through these discussion points in, step by step, that way we stay on topic and keep it organized and make it possible for Susanna and maybe some other folks to capture some notes from these discussions. And we just work through this over the next several meetings and then provide our input. So remind me, John, you probably know when this is due, I think in March of 2022. Am I right?
That's correct.
So that means we probably want to give Kendra our information, I would say January or February at the latest, to give her time to prepare a report.
That's really at the latest. You should
Yes.
really, in my opinion, you should shoot for the end of,
Let's shoot for December.
right.
Okay. So we have tonight, April, May, June, July, October, November. We have 6 meetings to do this. And let's just assume we're not going to have one of those meetings, because it wouldn't be unusual to have a buy on a meeting when we didn't have any other business. And let's say, and I'm just throwing this out as my thoughts and ideas, let's say we dedicate 5 hours to reviewing this document and putting our thoughts together, an hour a meeting over 5 meetings between now and December. So if we do that, I think topic 1, which has A, B, C, D, A through
There's
J.
9. There's 9 issues.
Yeah,
under
9
that.
issues there. And that's the meat of it that we try to cover, say maybe 3 of those per meeting. So that would be 1, 2, 3. That would be 4 meetings.
We're hearing talking in the background from somewhere.
Sorry, it's from my kids. Is it okay to put on mute?
Yeah, sure.
You could duct tape them or you can mute them. That, I'll leave it up to you. So, and then that would get us through to the last 2 points, changes in assumptions and policies and recommended changes for master plan development, which I think is just a summary.
Yeah, well, Ray, so the way I've seen this stuff, there'll be a lot of discussion potentially about the major problems and objectives and the extent addressed in the last one. The changes in assumptions and policies, that's going to be mainly Kendra, but you also may have a lot of discussion about the recommended changes for the master planner development regulations. So
Yep.
I would think item 3 is going to be more than an hour. Item 2 is probably less than an hour. And then I like how if you have 9 of these items, if you break down 3 a meeting, 20 minutes per subpoint, I think you can do it.
That's kind of exactly what I was thinking, not fleshed out in that level of detail, 20 minutes per point, but somebody have a 20-minute egg timer, that might help. So does anybody, anybody on the board have any other ideas of how to tackle this or objections or support for the thought process or comments in general, or do you have to go to the bathroom? Speak up now. All right. So I guess informally, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt that plan. We tackle this 1 hour per meeting over 5, not necessarily consecutive, but 5 meetings between now and December. And we spend an hour per meeting covering, going through Kendra's re-examination questionnaire, tackling one and the subtopics under 1, 20 minutes apiece, and then spending the last meeting tackling points 2 and 3, which will probably be over an hour in total. Anybody want to make a motion to do that?
Gary Hill has his hand up, but he's
All right,
muted.
Gary. Is that a question or a motion?
Motion, he's mouthed.
He's muted.
Okay.
All right, now I'm back. I muted myself because my dog was going crazy before because of the DoorDash delivery.
So we have a motion from Gary, and to Joe, did you second it or were you just waving?
Yes, I second.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Guess the motion carries. And that brings us to the start of the process, which is 1, major problems and objectives, and 1A is the need for the increase in recreation land and facilities.
So Ray, I might be able to help out here and save us some time. The Open Space Committee is looking at a long-term plan for all of the park facilities. They're going to interact with the rec and other organizations to develop that plan. So it's up to what everybody here thinks, but you could just ask, wait for their findings and recommendation from them.
Well, I think the question in front of us here is there a need to increase the recreation facilities?
Yeah, and that's what they'll do. They'll determine that. They'll make that determination. Working with the rec and working with the other organizations.
He doesn't mean they'll make that determination. He means they'll make a recommendation.
Yeah, recommendation.
Right. So if we have a whole committee of people dedicated to this one question.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, you could attest to it too, right?
Absolutely.
Bill's on the OS committee also.
So, I mean, I have a real sneaky idea. What's the time frame, Frank and Bill? What's the time frame on the recreation committee's report out? I mean, what's your deliverable? And when is it due?
We don't know yet, and there is no time frame yet. I mean, Jeremy's the chair, so I guess we could ask Jeremy what that would be. But
well, he picked a heck of a night to get it
I know, right?
off.
I know. So, I could get back to you on that.
Oh,
But I would think
okay.
that you would need the information by December, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I think maybe before December,
Okay,
just
When
because
would
we
you
want to
want-
be able to have everything summarized and then wrap it up in December and hand it to Kendra. And
So can I suggest that we table A and move on to the next one?
yeah, I'm saying possibly defer to the Recreation Committee, but the only thing I would say to the group is if anybody has anything that's top of mind, because they've all done their homework and read this, that they want to contribute as a suggestion now, we could do that, and then we'll table it and move on and hear back from, I guess, Jeremy as to when they could come back to us with their report.
Ray, my question on that was, is this something that we would, is this a plan that we would approve? Or is it strictly just that, a recommendation only, and how much input, would we require that we would want to give them a deadline by maybe September? Because we may want to make tweaks, which might take a meeting or two.
Put it this way, only the planning board can adopt a master plan element. So the Open Space and Recreation Committee or the Open Space Committee can make recommendations, but they can't adopt. I mean, they can adopt the thing they call an Open Space and Recreation Plan, but it's not a master plan element. Only you guys can do that. So I think Ray has the right idea. Get the recommendations and you review it. If you like it, then you'll make it part of yours. If you don't like it, you have the option, not just the option, you have the, Ray, what word am I looking for? The ultimate responsibility.
Right. It's our jurisdiction to adopt
right,
it.
right.
So, but at the end of the day, we can also pick and choose from their recommendations. We don't have to adopt everything in total. We can add to it, I think.
I think
if
what
we
Kendra's,
find other things that we'd
Right.
like to do, but
Kendra's basic question is, apparently in the 2012 report, indicated that open space and recreation was in the process of being adopted. It had a priority schedule, yada, yada. She says, is there still a need to increase recreational land and facilities?
right. And we have a
That's
whole
what-
committee of people that are looking at that very thing.
Right.
exactly.
Since the last report was
So
done, we've
let's wait until
established
they come
Thomas
back.
Stewart Park, which is a new facility, and we've probably done other things that I'm not thinking of. So let them look at that holistically and come to us with their conclusions, and then we'll adopt, modify, incorporate that and put it in our report. I mean, it's not to say we can't add to it, but if they're going to spend all that time doing it, I kind of agree with Bruce. I think we agree to table that until we get a report from the Open Space Committee. And the only caveat I would have is in order to get this done, we need some sort of a deadline to get that from the Open Space
All
Committee.
right.
We can't leave it
So you
open.
guys give them a deadline. Talk about it and make up a deadline.
Yeah,
Pass on
I
to
mean,
them.
I don't know how often they meet. I don't know what their
Once a
plan
month,
is, but I would
first
think
Thursday.
hopefully maybe by September, we could get something from them.
Frank, did you say they meet once a month, the first Thursday of the month?
Yeah, first Thursday.
I think September is doable.
Does
What do you
that
think?
make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah, we could, yeah, I would just send, maybe Susanna could send Jeremy. that
Bingo.
requirement. Jeremy's the chair, so. he'll set
Stole
the-
my thunder. So Susanna, you can send Jeremy Blunt, a letter, an email, smoke signals, just make sure he gets it. Copy Bill, because Bill's also on the committee,
Okay,
unless I'm mistaken. And,
No,
Frank
I'm
and
on.
I and Bruce, I guess, copy us and say, explain that since he's not in this meeting and unlikely to look at the recording the minute he gets home, explain to him what we've decided briefly, that we're going to wait for their recommendations on open space and ask them to please provide it to have a, report for the land use board by the September meeting date, whatever that date is.
And Ray, can I make one last suggestion? That she include in the letter the 3 questions that Kendra has asked.
Yep,
They
perfect.
could say anything else they want, but you want their opinion on those 3 questions.
Okay, well, we didn't even do A and it took us 20 minutes to table it. So let's move on to B. The next one is municipal services and emergency facilities. So the 2012 report indicates that overcrowding conditions for municipal facilities was not resolved and the funding was the limiting factor. Is there still a need to expand municipal services and emergency facilities? If so, what specific services facilities need expansion? What are the constraints to meeting this objective? So I assume by that we're talking about the municipal building, I don't know, does this, Frank, would this include the volunteer fire?
Yeah,
Or is that
so,
a separate issue? Because it's
Yeah,
really,
and-
Same
and Paul-
issue.
Paul could speak to this, that the town committee is going to look at a possible new fire and police on the new municipal site where the sign is for the firehouse.
Yep.
So the town definitely sees a need for fire and police. And there's also, I would say that there's a need for a municipal building also. The funding is another issue. So we're only recommending what is needed. We're not really concerned about funding, right? So we're just gonna, I would say all three things are needed. A new municipal building, a new police, and a new fire are needed. You know, where the funding's gonna come.
Nothing has changed because.
Nothing
we've
has
done none of
changed,
those
is that right?
since That last one.
Yeah, nothing's changed. That's true. That's true. And we're trying to tackle it, right, Paul? We're looking into,
Obstacles are the same.
yeah,
which is primarily funding.
funding, yes.
Because we have land, the
Right.
firehouse has land
Yeah,
that is designated.
And and there's land for the municipal building too.
exactly. There's land for everything. It's 25 acres.
Does this, excuse me, does this include the emergency squad also or not?
No,
That's not currently in the plans.
So is there a need to expand for the emergency squad or is that,
no, they have their own building that they're not going to outgrow. They're good.
so,
Okay.
I mean, Paul, I guess, I
Problem
don't,
with the
The biggest problem that the squad has is the volunteerism. The number of people that volunteer is significantly low. But that's the problem. But the squad doesn't need anything from the municipality in the way of a new location or anything. Correct, Gary?
Correct.
Yes.
and just to clarify for everyone, when we say municipal services and facilities, are we also talking about equipment for those services?
Oh, there's a little DPW conversation going on in there. Yes.
So it's possible that if you ask the fire company or the emergency squad, Paul, I know you participate, or, you know, municipal services, they might also have equipment needs that are part of this, right? Not just buildings, but
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, I could be wrong. I wouldn't think that equipment needs are under the master plan conversation, but
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
would this
I wouldn't
include
think so.
police cars or does it just include a police building?
a facility, correct?
Okay,
Uh,
so
Paul,
we're not talking
But
about equipment. that-
Paul is correct. Paul is correct. This is facilities, land, building. This is not
Okay.
equipment.
I'm just asking. I'm not suggesting we do that deep dive, but I just wanted to make sure we were covering it. So the situation with municipal services and emergency facilities is that they've remained unchanged. We still need to expand them. We need a municipal building and a fire,
And police.
And police.
fire and police. So we still think that the need is there, hasn't changed since the last report, and I'm assuming that the constraints are the same.
Susanna, you got to be taking down very good minutes for this because this is the stuff that's got to go to Kendra.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, and we're recording, because if I was writing it down, I know I'd have to probably go back to the recording
Yeah.
to make sure I captured it all. But
Aren't the constraints a little different this time? In 2012, had we allocated the land?
I don't know.
So the
Probably.
financial,
But
You have the land. that
I'm
good
thinking when we
long-
purchased that property, as soon as we purchased the property for Thomas Stewart Park, as soon as we did that, we cut the land out. So when was that purchase? Paul, do you remember when we?
No, I don't know, but I'm guessing it was before 2012 though.
I'm thinking it was before.
Yeah, it was before I was on the committee and I was 2009, so.
Yeah, so we always had, that was, I think, cut out right away, right, Bruce? As soon as we purchased it, we cut it out.
When I got on, it was cut out, is
Yeah.
my recollection.
Yeah.
The only thing that happened since then was, I believe you donated the land, a piece of it, to the fire company. Or sold it for a dollar.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know that ever materialized. Did we ever?
Yeah,
I
no,
don't think
no,
we
the
cut out a
fire
piece of the land for the
department
fire
has,
department.
the fire department's been deeded 3 acres.
That's my recollection.
So
But we never officially cut that out though, right? I haven't seen any plans for that.
Well, I mean.
That's all to be worked out, I think, right?
Well, I think the fire department section is actually cut out. They have a plan with it on it.
I've seen that their fundraiser that has the
All right, well,
plan and it shows the lot and the proposed facility.
Yeah, I think the question might be, and I don't have the answer, is whether it was actually subdivided.
Right.
Yeah, that's that. It would have to come here, no, John, if it was subdivided?
Municipally owned. Technically, the municipality is immune from its own zoning ordinances. A lot of places, as a matter of good form, will come to the board, but
Yeah.
legally, I'm not even sure they have to.
Yeah, I would think that they would have though, just for a reference, but.
So
I
if
don't
we
know,
need to, if
so.
we need to know that, we can ask Susanna to put it into a question for Mike Finelli, because wouldn't he know? I mean,
Mike
if
probably
we
knows.
Or Mike
subdivided
Leahy.
it, somebody would have had to have done the survey work and so on.
Or Mike Lavery too. If there was an official legal transaction that was had. that
Yeah,
was-
'cause
So Mike Lavery might actually be the best person to ask.
Yeah, because there would be some kind of legal handing over.
So rather than batter that around, let's just ask Mike
Right.
Lavery if that subdivision was ever done, and then we can discuss whether it should be done or
I'll
whether
bet
we
you Joe
don't need to
Mexi's
do
got
it.
an answer to that.
Yeah, Joe Mexi will tell you right away.
Yeah, Joe's got that answer too.
With regards to municipal services, although on C it has wastewater management, but is there ever any consideration about additional sewer capacities or land needed for pump stations? If we're gonna look at sewer in the lower end of town or any expansion off of 173, would that be something that would be factored into this as well?
Now, that has its own bullet.
Probably under C, isn't it?
Oh, that's under C, the wastewater management plan. That's not
Yep.
under two, that's not under B. You're
But
jumping
that's
ahead.
why I said, because I see under C, in C, we have wastewater management. I wasn't sure if that was strictly like stormwater or,
No, that's
just-
wastewater. That's
Okay.
not stormwater, it's wastewater.
There's also stormwater later.
Yeah, stormwater is H.
okay.
Perfect.
Are
Well,
we done with
Gary,
D?
I'm glad you brought it up because that was a big question that I had in all of this is sewer, because it seems like that's something that we probably need to talk about, but is there, so if I'm just summarizing for the discussion of municipal services and emergency facilities, I'm thinking that our report to Kendra is that the needs have not changed and that the constraints have not changed. We still need facilities for township, police and fire, and we haven't fulfilled that need. We have land that's designated for those facilities, but we haven't constructed it.
Or funded it.
Yeah, it hasn't been funded. And I assume that the major constraint is funding.
That is correct.
So is there anything else we need to do on B, or does anybody else have any ideas on B, or can we move on and let cut Gary loose? So moving on to wastewater management plans and revisions. The 2012 report did not specifically address the resolution of this listed objective. What's the update to this status of wastewater management plan? So Gary, I think I'll give you the floor. You started to ask a question and we reeled you back, so now's the time.
But Ray, before he asks the question, who here knows the status of the current wastewater management plan? Does someone on the township committee know? Does Frank or Paul know?
Well,
I think it only shows Main Street, right?
well, yeah, that's the
That's the
plan,
sewer
but
district.
it's hung up in limbo at this stage of the game.
What do you mean hung up in limbo?
Well, there's no moving forward on it.
Paul,
No.
not moving forward. What is, who, see if Mike was
Finelli
here,
has a plan for the wastewater.
what's the existing plan? The existing plan provides what? Just so the board members know. I
Are
don't
you
know.
are you asking about the wastewater management, like the zoning for it? The zoning, is that the question?
No,
That's-
you have a wastewater management plan that gets approved by the DEP. What does the Greenwich Township wastewater management plan that's approved by the DEP provide?
It's, and as you know, John, it's extremely old because what was put together quite some time ago was never officially adopted.
I think we have to wait for Mike Finelli on this too. I'm sure he would have a lot of input.
There was a plan that was developed. I think it was when I was on committee and probably started before that, that included Main Street, included the Heights, included a number of other buildings or areas. And we talked about this not all that long ago, but that plan was never accepted by the DEP.
So we don't know exactly what the plan is because we have some roughed out plans, but they were never adopted and the subject matter expert on that plan's not here.
That's correct.
So can we talk about the need for it from the, at least from the opinions of the board members?
How would we know the need for it unless there's a study done?
Yeah, if they don't have a plan.
Well, I mean, I don't know, Frank. I mean, I'm driving down Main Street and some guy on Main Street's digging a big hole in the side of his yard. I guess he's replacing his septic system, I would assume. And I've always heard, and I don't have data, that there's a lot of issues in some of those areas with small lots with malfunctioning systems. We also have capacity that would probably best be used.
Yeah, but Main Street's
There.
already in the wastewater management plan. It's already in it.
No, actually, it's in the.
It's in the sewer
It's into
district.
what we wanted to do, and but the plan was never adopted by the DEP.
No, but what I'm saying is it's in the sewer district. It's already in the sewer district.
So it's in the district.
Yeah.
Ray, can I make a suggestion? Without Mike Finelli here, I mean, again, I mean, Frank might be right and Bruce might be right and everyone might be right, but Mike Finelli will know. We're going to do a whole bunch of talking about something that people don't even agree on what the underlying fact is. Meaning,
So
I would go down to D and put C for next meeting when you have Mike here.
But maybe perhaps give Mike some ideas what we're talking about so he can come to the meeting a little bit better prepared.
The question for Mike is, what is the update? What's the status of the wastewater management plan? What is the current plan? The last plan that was approved by the DEP, what is it? What's the last plan that Greenwich proposed to the DEP, which they didn't approve? And then what, if anything, do you guys recommend be changed about it?
yeah, I'm fine with that because we could probably move on. And
Sounds
I mean,
good.
I think A and B are actually kind of done. C, well, A is not done, but we'll get a report and that should be pretty fast. C, we can defer until we have Mike, because since he's the subject matter expert there,
And
we might be
Kendra,
chasing our tails.
right, Mike and Kendra for D, I agree.
Yep. For C.
No, Mike for C, Mike and Kendra for D. I'm even going down the list.
Okay.
The Highlands Planning area, right?
Yeah, we don't know what the, I don't know what the township petition to the New Jersey Highlands Council was.
It was to look into opting into it, and I think multiple times it's been denied as not a good idea because we didn't want them to have any control over our zoning.
Gotcha.
Can I ask what's meant by the degradation concerns?
Again, Ray, you guys can talk about it all you want, but without Kendra and Mike here, I can't even answer this question. I was around when the petition went into the
Yeah, I don't know
Highlands.
what that means either.
I know, but so now we're going to talk about what does it mean? There's no one on this Zoom that knows the answer to that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the degradation would be losing control of our zoning, but we can defer D until so C and D will need Mike and Kendra to be involved in those conversations. I mean, I'm just afraid that we'll go down the rest of these.
No, E, you guys can do E.
So we don't need experts to discuss a circulation plan.
That's right. In my opinion.
I could give a little background on the circulation plan.
I was gonna say, what is it?
Yeah.
Well,
So
again,
circulation
can I
plan,
say something? You guys should, I don't want to, there's a 2012 master plan, right? Re-examination document. You guys need to read that.
Yeah, we got copies of that.
Yeah, but because it says it right in there, what the circulation plan is and what recommendations they made in 2012.
it's the connecting of the roads, Gary. That's
Okay.
what it is. And
I don't have the plan in front of me. I just looked for a little refresher, that's all.
No, what happened was way back, it was changed because the planning board saw that there were a lot of through roads that were connecting to high traffic roads through the developments. And at that time, the planning board decided to take out all the through roads. They weren't concerned about people from other towns making it easy for them to get through our developments. So that was the purpose of the way, I think if you look at it now, you'll notice there's no through roads into any of the developments.
So basically cut throughs.
Yeah, cut throughs, connecting like 22 to 519 through development or connecting Washington Street down to North Main through Pace Setter. There was all these different connections through town that were removed at the time. So if you look at it now, you'll notice that it kind of directs the traffic around the town, not through the town. And with the way things are going now with the trucks and everything, probably a good thing that was done at the time.
Yeah, so that was obviously part of the 2012 recommendation, which I guess we executed that,
Yeah,
accomplished that objective.
yep.
Without having the circulation plan in front of me. I mean, I think we could still, at least I, for one, still have some concerns about what's coming in the future here in terms of truck traffic.
Yeah,
So I think that's something that might need to be addressed because of all the warehouses that are surrounding us now.
yeah, you might want to look at weight restrictions, wherever we can put them in. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know what jurisdiction we have on county roads, but I guess we can try.
You have 0 on county roads, but
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I know truck traffic on 170, there used to be no truck traffic on 173 because of the bridge weight limit. And, they redid the bridge. Now I think there's still a weight limit, but I'm not sure if the trucks are allowed on 173. So that'd be a question I have because that allows trucks to circumvent the way station.
Yeah.
Ray,
They're
do you
not
want me,
allowed.
73 still has a weight restriction on it.
Yep.
Okay.
Ray, do you want me to read the circulation plan update needed according to the 2012 reexamination report or not?
Yes.
If you have it, yes.
Yeah, I have it right up in front of me. This is what it says. The circulation plan has not been re-examined in light of the new zoning. There is still a need to revise the circulation plan element to reflect current land use regulations. Additional circulation plan changes may be required. In the event that the owners of the Dominguez property abandon the current subdivision approval in light of their farmland preservation application. This property is noted in the circulation plan element as the location for a future school access road between the 2 township schools. Recently, the planning board recommended to the township committee that the school access path construction be tabled due to uncertainty regarding the status of the parcel. The Township Committee requested the easement location be revised to follow the boundary of the property instead of bisecting it, and encourage the Open Space Committee to work with the landowner to maintain the easement for a future path in the new location, period. So I have a feeling that what Frank was talking about, that was the 2002 circulation plan element that effectively had everything going around it, not the 2012. The 2012, they seem to be focused, if you remember, that the Mingus parcel came in before the board. There was going to be a big subdivision, and then the money fell out, the market fell out, and nothing was done with it. That seems to be the entire focus of the 2012 circulation plan element. I mean,
So we're talking, it's not just roads, it's foot traffic too. That they were addressing. Yeah.
So the focus in the 2012 re-exam was just on the foot traffic, they said, but they said the circulation plan has not been examined in light of new zoning. The new zoning was 2006. It doesn't say that, but that's when the new zoning came in. And they said there's a need to revise the circulation plan element to reflect the new land use regulations.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that from what I'm hearing here is that because of the development outside of the township, more so than inside the township, that there is a need to revisit the circulation plan. And so the answer to would be yes, we do need to do it. And now, when it comes to if so, what how do we figure out recommendations to deal with that? Is that an engineering? Is that a traffic survey? What is that?
I don't know. That's something to ask both Mike and Kendra. I mean, I think it's becoming obvious that you really need those guys more than me at these meetings to discuss this re-examination report.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we know there's warehouses going all around, and we know there's trucks.
Bruce's point is,
I think we're probably in agreement with that. We just need to come up with a plan on how you deal with it.
Yeah.
So in 2012, they didn't do anything with the circulation plan to reflect a new zoning.
Right, they said that should be done, but then no one did it.
They didn't do it.
What new zoning?
Well, again, Ray, this is a re-examination report. So you don't, in the re-examination report, you actually don't change the master plan. You're making recommendations on the master plan should be changed. So they made a recommendation that should be redone. And again, it doesn't say why it didn't happen. I can only assume the township committee didn't want to pay to have it done, but I don't know.
So would it suffice in terms of our recommendation to say, yes, the circulation plan needs to be updated as a result of the developments outside the township of warehousing and so on, and basically leave it to say, yes, we need to do it, and this is why.
Yeah, you could say yes, because you recommended it in 2012 and it wasn't done, and now there's even more of a reason to do it.
Right, and this is what we feel needs to be addressed.
The only thing I would add to that, and I agree with you, Bruce, I think it should be re-examined, except that maybe we ask our professionals if there's anything that we can practically. Nobody's worried about I haven't heard anybody say we need sidewalks or street lights or any other minor circulation elements. What I'm hearing is the major concern is is the impact of traffic from development outside, specifically warehouses and truck traffic. So what we might do before we recommend that is ask Mike and Kendra if there's anything that we in practicality can do, because we don't want to recommend that we do spend a whole lot of money on a circulation plan only to find out that the only things that will really help are things that are outside our jurisdiction, like weight limits on county roads and things like that. That's what I would suggest. Ask them if they have a short list of things that the township could do, or that, and then go from there.
I think, and then just so everybody knows, I mean, the township is definitely interested in restricting weight on any road that sees that trucks are going to traverse. I think part of the reason, especially where it's in the residential areas. So
I mean, there's only a very few roads in the township that are large enough roads to have truck traffic, and that really makes sense for, other than local deliveries, of course. I'm talking about through traffic.
Yeah, what are you talking? You're talking.
So I think Mike and Kendra can look at that in probably 10 minutes and say, yes or no, we can do something here. That's my gut instinct. And if they can't, then why recommend spending a whole bunch of money on traffic studies? If that's the driver and we can't affect it, why bother? If we can affect it, then we recommend that it get addressed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, John,
Yeah.
question for you. When you were talking, when I had made the comment before about what exactly the circulation plan was, and you referenced reading that document, you were talking about the document that you sent out January 14th, referencing the 2012 adopted reexamination report, correct?
Right, I was reading
Yeah.
right out of that 2000.
Exactly. And that's where my question came from, because now Ray brought up a point about other portions of the circulation plan, such as street lighting and things of that nature, that nowhere is in that report does it say that those are other elements that are part of the circulation plan. So that's why I made the comment. What
In my
exactly
opinion,
is it?
right. In my opinion, all those things can be part of it. That's
Well,
totally up to what you guys
This
want
is
to
the
do.
first time I've ever seen a reexamination plan or a reexamination agenda for a master plan. So that's why I'm asking this question.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
thinking there's other people on the board here who don't know that street lighting and other things are other elements that need to be thought of.
Right, just like Ray said, sidewalks, street lighting, crosswalks. But it's not,
Everybody's got-
circulation is not simply vehicular circulation, it's also
Exactly.
pedestrian circulation.
Yeah, but I think you got to keep in mind the budget that we have. I mean, we didn't even get through the circulation plan. Now we got Mike doing, I mean, we got $5,000 budget on this.
Well,
So-
just to be clear, okay, this is a reexamination report where we're making recommendations that things need to be done. We're not necessarily answering all those questions right now, are we? We're just deciding these are the things that should be done. In other words, develop a circulation plan that, as an example, that improves pedestrian circulation. That's something that needs to be done. We're not going to do it. We're not employing the engineer right now.
We're
That's
making the
something-
recommendation to the township committee to
Yeah, he gave
readopt.
me a thumbs up, by the way, so.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I mean, we're not saying that
no.
it has to be done. I mean, we're
No, no,
certainly
no, no,
not.
No, it's just like the services of building the firehouse and the municipal was a recommendation that had to be done. Nobody did it. Nobody spent any money on it, okay? But our
Exactly.
job is to identify.
And my
you
point
know,
specifically is the fact that I'm just trying to generate conversation so
No,
this
I
way
agree
everybody
with you.
understands what it is that we're talking about. And we're not saying that more streetlights need to be put in or that we're gonna pay to do it, but just that, hey, it was a recommendation, not that it has to be followed on, but a recommendation was made.
I understand, Gary. I'm just trying to make the point because Frank is concerned about the budget. What I'm trying to say is the fact that we make a recommendation doesn't mean we're saying we're spending the money now or even spending the
Exactly.
money
No,
to do
that's-
the plan.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
wasn't where I was going. Where I was going was asking the experts to do research so that we can make that determination. That's what I was concerned with, because you're gonna have to engage Mike and Kendra, and we got to keep in mind the budget for the master plan. That's
Right.
all. That was.
Right now, what we're talking about, if my notes are correct, we're talking about, well, we're not doing anything on A until September. On C, we've gotten Mike, who's basically going to answer questions. He's got to attend the meeting and answer questions of the status. He doesn't have to develop a plan. He's not developing the sewer plan there.
Yep.
And D, we're talking about Mike and Kendra attending the meeting to give us the update on the Highlands status. So we're talking about them attending those meetings.
No, I was addressing the need for Mike and Kendra to review if we need lights, if we need roads, if we could restrict weight.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up, Frank, is because I said that's part of the circulation plan and I'm not hearing anyone. And of course, anyone's welcome to chime
I'm
in, but
okay
I'm not
with it.
hearing anyone voice any concerns other than this truck traffic from outside the township. So we're not
Right, and
hearing any other driver
Right, and I'm good with all that. I just wanted to keep it in mind that we just gotta make sure that
Yep.
we follow the budget, because there may be other things that we want them looking into further down in this that we don't even know, so.
Yep. No, I would agree. So for E, I would say, and I'm just summarizing, and then this open question for comment. What I'm hearing on the circulation plan is that the new concern, the driving concern, is this truck traffic that's being generated from outside the township. I'm not hearing anyone talk about the need for sidewalks or streetlights. I'm not saying you can't say that. I'm not saying I haven't heard that yet. I've heard, Gary said that that's part of it, and I agree, but I'm not hearing anyone make a case for that. So what I'm recommending is, we asked Mike to take 20 minutes and look at that issue and see if it's even worth recommending that we address a circulation plan based on whether or not we could impact truck traffic within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's good. I'm good with that.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And thank you, Bruce, for the summary of A through E. We're kind of moving ahead, but some of these things we'll come back to. The next thing is historical commission engagement, which is interesting. So the 2012 report includes specific recommendations related to the adoption of design guidelines and of the Hamlet Zone Plan and ordinance. The 2012 report also indicated that nomination of Stewartsville Historic District to state and national registers of historic places was under review by the State Historic Preservation Office. Are there additional updates? So is anyone here on the historical committee? I think Bob Veterson is or was, right? Is he still around?
Greg, Bob Veterson, Greg Blaska. I think those are the only two I know.
Do we have any land use board members who are on the historical committee?
I don't think so, Ray. Maybe you can ask those guys, just like you're asking the open space committee to make recommendations. Maybe you can ask those guys to report to you what, if anything, is happening.
That's what I was going to suggest, because it looks like they had some things in the plans here which are actually interesting to me. I wasn't aware that we were looking at a Stewartsville Historic District or a Hamlet Zone plan. And maybe so I don't know, who is the chairman of the historical commission? Is there a chair?
I think it's Greg Blaska.
Yeah, I think so. Greg.
So
I could get you his email.
Yep, I would say, Susanna, that we should reach out to Greg and ask him if he could make a report to the land use board. I mean, maybe in May, and just give us an update on where the historical committee is with respect to this, engagement, and just give him this paragraph verbatim and ask them if they could provide us an update in May, 10 minutes update on where that's at. And then we can decide if there's anything else that needs to be done or any recommendations that comes from that.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee that there's nothing been done on that. That's FYI.
Well, Ray, can I suggest that we ask for that update in June rather than May? Because I think you're going to be pretty busy in May with the things that we've got for Mike and Kendra.
Yeah, that's fine, Bruce. I don't have any issue with that.
We know
maybe we can do D and E in May and then F in June. Obviously, we're moving through more than 3 of these this evening, but we're going to backtrack on a couple of them. So I think it might make sense to go through maybe even
keep on
everything
going.
down through J,
at
least so we know what it is, and then if we have to backtrack on any of it, because the only thing I have in my notes that's sort of complete is
B.
Yeah, B. So
Why don't you go to the next item, which is the scenic
Scenic
G.
character protection.
Right now, let me read this to you because I think I know where this came from. I'm going to read first what it says. This is item 9 in the 2012 re-exam report, scenic character protection. Recommendations from the 1998 master plan related to scenic resources. And they were updated in the 2006 conservation and land use plan elements. The 2006 plan includes recommendations for scenic corridors and scenic viewshed management, and also managing development on slopes, ridgelines, hillsides relating to scenic and unique viewsheds. And here's the recommendation. The recommendations, goals, and objectives of the 2006 conservation plan have been incorporated into the open space and recreation plan, which is currently being developed. That was actually adopted. I'm deviating from what's here now. That was adopted. If you guys recall, especially for you guys who were on the Greenwich Board of Adjustment at that time, before there was a joint land use board, you had the Warren Solar application and the Warren Solar application, and then you had another. And one of the reasons one of the applications was denied and the other one was granted was the impact on scenic corridors and scenic views. So now now I'm picking it up again in the text. The plan recommends consideration of parcels along the Morris Canal Route, Garden State Greenways, scenic byways of Route 78 and Route 57, and other scenic local roadways for open space preservation. There's a new sign ordinance that was adopted in 2008. In addition, the Highlands Regional Master Plan, blah, 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 blah. This one I know something about. I believe that this master plan, this recommendation was basically carried out through the planning board's adoption of the farmland preservation plan. In there, it had stuff about scenic and historic resources. So maybe you could ask, I don't know who you'd ask about it, but I think that, quite frankly, unless someone thinks a review of scenic character protection is still necessary, I'm not so sure it's still necessary. I think this is one of the few things that was done.
That you would just maintain as is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
So it says recommended that a review of Highland scenic resources be compared to those in the 2006 conservation plan, inclusion in the regional master plan. So you're saying, John, that was accomplished by the adoption of the open space plan?
To a certain extent, yes. Because remember, in 2012, it referenced, let me go back and read it again. It referenced to a plan being developed, which I believe was in fact developed. You'd have to check with Kendra, but it says, the recommendations, goals, and objectives of the 2006 conservation plan have been incorporated into the open space and recreation plan, which is currently being developed. So maybe just have Kendra check, but I thought that in fact was developed. There was an open space plan that was adopted. The farmland preservation plan was adopted, and an open space plan was adopted after this re-examination report in 2012. So we just, in fact, let me just go up to the top of, no, there would be something after. Let me just look into my files, my master plan files, and see if I can find the latest date on the farmland preservation and the open space plans.
Well, while John's looking at that, I'm just going to make a bold statement here. It completely failed the Route 57 corridor. The Route 57 corridor in Greenwich Township is a mess. Abandoned homes, dilapidated buildings, properties that have been left to degrade. There's no scenic stretch on Route 57 in Greenwich Township.
The open space and recreation plan and the farmland preservation plan, they weren't talking about houses along Route 57. They were talking about when you drive by what you see behind the houses. The open space plan looks like was done and finished in 2011, but that doesn't make sense because it says in 2012 report, the reexamination report said it was underway. Let
I
me see if-
thought we adopted that because that was a lawsuit. Wasn't it in 2012 that we adopted it?
The Open Space and Recreation Plan was adopted June 13, 2011. Let me look at the Farmland Preservation Plan, and let me look to see if there's been an update since then. Farmland Preservation Plan was adopted on January 10, 2011. Again, both before the 2012 re-exam. So let me just take a look in one other place.
Yeah, because if I read Kendra's comment here, it sounds like she's indicating that the majority of the objectives were addressed. What they're recommending is a review of the Highlands scenic resources be compared to those in the 2006 conservation plan. So I assume that has something to do with the Highlands Preservation Act,
You're gonna have to ask Kendra about that then.
like stream corridors and so on.
So add this to the list of things to ask Kendra about, because I'm finding the last Farmland Preservation Plan adopted 2011, the last Open Space Plan adopted 2011, and both of those are before the 2012 report. So I could be missing one.
Okay. So it sounds to me like there's a good chance that we don't need to revisit the scenic character protection
Ask
topic.
Kendra.
But we have to ask,
Yeah.
yeah, we should ask Kendra when she's in the next meeting. I think we need to understand what's in the open space and recreation and farm preservation plans, if they were adopted, to know, just to have somebody explain that to us in Cliff Notes form, to understand whether we feel that we are protected or whether something else needs to be done. I mean, Paul mentioned Route 57. I know the houses along Route 57 might not be part of it, but there's other, they talked about, John, you talked about scenic corridors.
Yep.
And I thought Route 57 was supposed to be some sort of a scenic corridor in Warren County. I mean, that's
Yep.
what the sign says.
That's what the
It doesn't
sign
look like it.
says.
Yep.
So let's ask Kendra about that. I don't know
Well-
if we get to it next month, but in an upcoming meeting. But I don't
That's-
think, we probably don't need to spend an hour on it for sure.
Well, just so you understand, given asking Kendra about that means that Kendra is going to have to spend the time going back and researching all of those past documents to answer that question. And I'm not sure if that's the question that's before us. The question before us is, is a review of the scenic character protection still necessary?
And I don't know, because I don't know what these protections are. If there's an easier way to do that so that everyone understands what protections are in place, because everything I'm hearing is we don't know if it was passed or when it was passed, or, I mean, I don't know what we have.
Well, okay, so what I think we can do probably is there are documents that were passed, and we can get copies of those to review and go back and look at that, to look at those documents and answer that question.
Bruce, you guys have to make a basic decision. I can send you out tonight every single master plan document that's been adopted through 2011. The only other one that I have that's been adopted after that is the housing element and fair share plan for the affordable housing that was adopted in 2019. But then you guys are going to have a couple inches worth of stuff. So you guys have to decide, are you all going to read all that stuff? Or what Ray is suggesting, and I'm not taking a position on it, he's suggesting it might be worth paying Kendra to read it and give you guys a summary.
Well, I would love to pay Kendra for that if we have the money to do it. That's, I'm not looking for extra.
Well, and my concern is, number one, it's certainly a lot of work to read that. It's probably also difficult for lay persons, and I consider, after 20 years of doing this, I still consider myself a lay person, to actually completely understand what we're reading in some cases. Sometimes it's good to have a professional distill it into something that's understandable so that we really know what, what's in there and understand it. But,
That's what
I see Frank there rubbing his chin going, oh, here we go. And I understand his concern as well. I mean, we can't spend $20,000 having Kendra do research for us.
I have a question.
Instead of just volunteers.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
The question I have, I vaguely remember something about a land swap with that Sunshine Landscape on 57 to move solar. They moved solar from being on the road to back hidden. And wasn't that something about the same thing, the scenic views, no billboards?
Exactly, that's what I was saying, that there were two
Yeah.
solar
You're right. One of the
applications.
reasons that we did that, one of the justifications for doing that was to maintain the scenic corridor along Route 57. And so they got, I think it wasn't exactly the same acreage, but it was pretty close. They got frontage and exchange property in the rear, and the development Sunshine did that swap. And I think it was a straight up swap of just redeeding the. I don't know that any money changed hands.
Correct.
I don't
It
remember that
was
detail.
right. It was a subdivision where they swapped it out. That's why the Board of Adjustment granted that use variance for the solar on that one, and they denied it for Warren Solar, because for Warren Solar, they weren't doing anything. They weren't landscaping enough. They weren't buffering enough, and it would have ruined the scenic view. And in a nutshell, that's why the Board of Adjustment granted one and denied another. And they relied on the two documents that were the Farmland Preservation Plan that was adopted in 2011 and the Open Space and Recreation Plan that was adopted in 2011. So again, you got to ask Kendra, because I don't understand. I was here and I don't remember and I don't understand why the 2012 re-exam report talks about something that was underway, but it looks like it was never done, but I don't even remember what was underway.
Okay,
the
so-
town was able to use those plans to make it better. And they sound like they're good plans to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably have addressed character protection. I just, if there's anybody that's concerned about whether we have enough in place, then I think we should have somebody explain to us how we've addressed it.
I mean, again, read what
So far,
Kendra
I haven't
says.
really heard.
Right. Kendra says here, the 2012 report indicates the majority of the objectives were addressed. I'm paraphrasing a little, the only recommendation was the one thing about the Highlands scenic resources be compared to those in the 2006 conservation plan.
What that is.
I don't know what that
Know
means.
what that is.
Right, you gotta ask Kendra. I don't have no idea.
So,
Okay,
So
so
why
let's
don't we
move
just
on.
ask her
We're
what
beating
that
this
is?
dead horse. We're being a dead horse here without Kendra.
Right,
we'll just ask her what that is.
Which, Ray, this brings a question. I know we didn't have a meeting last month, but Kendra was unavailable for that one. She's unavailable for this one. Is there a reoccurring issue here?
Not that I'm aware of, Paul. The reason she wasn't going to be at this meeting is because she was told that we don't have a budget for her to do master, don't have any hearings.
right, and she
So-
was, right, and she was told that to come up with some other idea. So her idea was, if you didn't want to pay her to be here to do it, that she does this memo and you guys do it and answer the questions.
But
Right.
doesn't she, but she normally comes as a planner to every meeting
Well, she
anyway.
normally comes when we have a hearing because
Right.
she needs
Oh,
to,
Right.
but tonight we have a hearing, so there's no escrow. So anything that we paid her tonight, township's pocket.
Just like me too.
So she
right?
was doing it because she didn't think we wanted to spend money for her to do
Right,
the master plan. Now, next month, we'll tell her to plan to attend, and whatever it costs to have her attend the meeting and answer questions, we'll do that. And then we can decide if there's a homework assignment that we ask her to do that would be in addition. But I know we have to keep the cost down, so we'll have to monitor that. And with our new process, we should see month to month as we go what we're spending on this and be able to keep it hopefully within reason.
actually, Ray, you better talk to the CFO about that, because the only thing you're gonna be getting are the escrow billings.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So you
Good
might
point.
want the non-escrow billings also.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about that, Frank, but I think that's probably a good idea.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So Susanna, can you make a note of that because Lisa's process was escrow. Tell her that in addition to the escrow invoices on a monthly basis, we need to see,
Non-escrow.
invoices from professionals. I guess that would be all the non-escrow stuff. That way we have an idea of what we're spending.
And John, just let me ask you for clarity and relating to other professionals as well as yourself. So if we have a meeting and a portion of that meeting is related to a client and where you're billing an escrow account, but a portion of the meeting is discussing things like that, you're billing the township for that time, aren't you?
Correct. I whack up whatever is on the agenda. I whack it up between, if there's an application, the time on the application, it's review application at hearing. And then my billing even says attend non-escrow portion of meeting, if there's a non-escrow portion of meeting.
Right.
And
Okay.
there's
So
separate
the same
bills
would-
go out.
Same would apply for Kendra and
So
Mike.
tonight it's all non-escrow portion, right?
That's correct.
Frank, can you kick him out? The meter's running here.
Listen, Ray, I suggest you should keep on going through this list and you'll find out if you need help from Mike or Kendra on the other items. You should just.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to do is like, we're far enough along now. I think we go through H, I, and J to figure out what we need to do.
Yep.
And then,
So H, Mike.
Yeah, look at H.
Right.
Stormwater management, you need Mike.
You need Mike.
All right. Aye.
yeah, so H says that the report indicates that amendments were not made since the adoption of the 2005 Stormwater Management Plan. Mr. Finelli should apply an update. So yeah, I saw that before. I figured, Mike, we need for that. I, farmland preservation. Her question is the township interested in updating? So it would be actually great if we had 3, because I think she was probably our subject matter expert in farmland preservation, but unfortunately she's retired. So the 2012 report indicates this item was addressed as an update to the farmland preservation plan. It was completed in 2011. However, the 2012 report indicates there may be a need to update the preservation plan to reflect new data.
So this is
Question would be-
something that we have a paid open space consultant that handles everything open space and comes to all the open space meetings. This is maybe something that you can ask once again to Jeremy, utilizing Frank Pinto.
Yeah,
But again, this
question.
should be through the open space committee. This is just my observations since being here as the attorney since 2006. The open space committee does open space recreation and open space farmland. So you should go to the open space committee. They can decide if they want to go to Jeremy.
Okay.
Jeremy.
Pardon me. They can
Mike
decide if they
Pinto.
want to go to Frank Pinto.
Frank
Because
Pinto, yeah.
Frank Pinto, you get charged. The open space committee.
No, Frank Pinto's a flat fee. There's no additional charges for that.
Oh, then go to Frank, then go to the committee and Frank Pinto then.
All right, but question, it used to be that farmland preservation and open space were 2 separate things.
No, it's the same committee. It's all the same.
So they're handling farmland preservation because that's different funding.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, we have, he's a paid professional that the town uses. He's been with the town for the last.
To answer Bruce's question,
Well, why don't you let me answer? Let me answer it. To answer the question is, we have one committee that does farmland, open space, and recreation.
Thank you.
Parks. So
Don't make me use this.
Thank you.
Who's that for, John or me?
You.
I don't even know. I just see you guys arguing over who's got the mic. So.
Yeah, there's one committee, Bruce, does all 3.
I was going to make a sexist comment, but I won't.
Oh, not in today's world.
That's smart not to.
And well, once again, Jeremy's the chair. So if you want, I'm just putting it out there if you want to go to Jeremy on that or not.
I mean, I like the idea that we have a flat fee paid consultant that can update us on this. I mean, there's no better situation.
Yeah,
So
you
I would ask
happily
him
do it.
to,
Yeah.
ask the open space committee and and the consultant to report back on this.
Yeah, that would be,
That to me is an easy one because it doesn't seem like it costs us much.
okay.
So the last one, development regulations updates. This one looks like it's a little more complicated. So the report, 2012 report addressed the update of development regulations, creating consistency with the master plan. The following are regulations that were not deemed to be addressed. So I assume that she's saying that these are omissions.
No. She's saying that the 2012 report said that these 4 things needed work. So item 1, scenic resource inventory. The 2012 report recommended an update. That has not been done. Item 2, the conservation plan recommendations. Update was recommended through adoption of the Highlands land use regulations. This was when the petition went to the Highlands, and Frank is correct. The governing body did not want to make the changes that the Highlands wanted made to opt in, because they felt it would take their zoning authority away. So item 2 was attempted to be done, but the township committee rejected what the Highlands wanted to be done. Item 3, conditional use regulations. An update was recommended. I don't know about the status of that. Item 4, zoning code update. Update to remove errors and put in a user-friendly format. That was done, right? The ordinance is now online.
We put that online, right?
Right. So what I'm saying is 2, number 1, I don't know. Number 2 was attempted to be done, but the township committee was not willing to accept what the Highlands wanted done. Item 3.
Wait a minute, let me stop you there, John. Does that mean that we need to do it, or does that mean that we decided not to do it? Because if we decided not to do it, maybe we don't need to go there.
You decided not to do it because of what the Highlands Council, what changes they wanted in it. You guys put a lot of time and you proposed an ordinance and you sent it to the Highlands Council. And the Highlands Council, Ray had like 1.5 inches worth of redlining that they wanted done. And the township committee said, we're not doing it. Again, item 3, I don't know what the status is. And item 4, that was absolutely done.
What are conditional use regulations? Is that exactly what it says? Zoning for conditional uses?
Yeah, you have some conditional uses, and it's apparently the report says, I mean, I'll go read it. I forget. Let me just see what it says about conditional uses. It must be near the end of the report. Scrolling through it.
Page 14 comes up a few times.
Conditional uses comes up on page 14.
Yes.
You know where on page 14?
There's a bullet O, P, and Q.
There it is. Okay, conditional use regulations for institutional uses, houses of worship, government offices should be incorporated into the zoning ordinance for the B1 and B2 districts as recommended in the master plan. I don't know if that was done or not. P, conditional use regulations for hotel conference center uses should be incorporated into the zoning ordinance for the RO district as recommended in the master plan. I don't know if that was done or not. And then Q, places of worship. The 2006 re-exam report made the following recommendations. We talked about houses of worship should be either permitted or permitted conditional use. The board determined that omission of houses of worship and institutional uses in the RCD does not violate the Religious Land Use and Institutional Protection Act. As such, recommendation was rejected. So they rejected Q. They had 2 recommendations, O and P, and I don't know if anything was done about it.
He says completed, John.
It says P is completed.
Yeah.
Okay, so O, I don't know.
And which one was O? Remind me again.
Conditional use regulations for institutional uses, houses of worship, and governmental offices should be incorporated into the zoning ordinance. But then if you go down to Q, it says that the board has determined that it's two different zones. So O recommended that houses of worship, institutional uses, and government offices should be incorporated as conditional uses in the B1 and B2 districts. And I don't know what's been done about that. Q was a recommendation that they be included in the RCD zone, and there the board
And that was denied.
rejected. The board,
Okay.
the planning board said no.
So if I understand this correctly, the point 3, the only open item is churches and municipal facilities in B1, B2. We don't know if that was acted on.
Correct.
And everything else has been addressed.
Yes.
Okay, so that's pretty simple. We can get it. I think we can get an answer to that and then decide if anything needs to be changed or if we would recommend that it be changed.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not just churches.
It's
That's
houses of worship,
houses of worship.
which is a difference. Frank's right.
Yeah, well, good point, Frank. I didn't want to write houses of worship, so I wrote churches because it's less letters.
Yeah, but
I
guess what?
understand your point.
Right, and if you do that, that does violate your LURPA.
I'm gonna guess that something was probably done with that because on Route 57, there was a house of worship built within like the last 8 years. So I'll
Yeah,
bet
I
you.
think there's a certain right, John, that I think it's almost implicit, like you don't have to even specify.
If they went to the Board of Adjustment, they're an inherently beneficial use.
As I'm saying,
Yeah, but they didn't come to the Board of Adjustment. Ever since 2006, there's been no house of worship that came to the Board of Adjustment. So if there's a house of worship now there since 2006, it must be permitted. Paul's saying he's assuming that they did the ordinance. I have no idea. You need someone to check is all I'm saying. Unfortunately, this should be, my opinion, have Kendra check.
Would our zoning officer know this?
I don't know.
Who?
John could look up the zoning. I mean,
You're trying to find someone you don't have to, if you want to try to find someone you don't have to pay to do it, ask the zoning officer.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Would the zoning officer know?
Not our current zoning officer. I mean, Larry's only been here for a couple of years. Dave was the zoning officer for the previous 20.
Paul, is
he's got the
Larry
records.
paid, is Larry paid by the hour or is he on like a retainer?
He has a salary, not necessarily by the hour.
Okay, so then you ask him to look it up, right?
Yeah, no, he can look it up, right?
So that's my point. Can he look up and find out if houses of worship and municipal offices are permitted in the B1 and B2 zone? That's the question.
And institutional, houses of worship, institutional uses, and municipal offices.
I'm sorry, I missed institutional uses.
And it's in the
Suzanne, are
B-
you getting that?
It's in
Yes.
the B1 and B2 zone. That's the question.
So if you can ask Larry to answer that question.
Okay, I can, yeah.
Well, with that being said, anybody can go to the website and pull it up on, anybody can go read it. It's on the website.
yeah, anybody can do, that's right, Paul.
Okay, so who's volunteering to do it? Paul, you
Oh, I think
volunteering?
I guess the question really is this, why do you even need to know? I mean, do we want to look at changing anything there?
Well, don't you want to find out if the 2012 report recommended it, are you not at all curious to see if it was done?
No, I'm not. Because I'd say let sleeping dogs lie. That's what I'd say.
Or do we if it hasn't been done, do we want to recommend that it not be done?
I don't know. Sometimes you gotta,
So if I understand, but the question is, did we pass an ordinance to change it so that those things are now conditional uses, right? Because that was the recommendation before.
I don't remember. I mean, that wouldn't have been before the Board of Adjustment. That would have been a planning board issue. And it hasn't come before the planning board in
I certainly don't
4 years.
remember it, but I don't go back far enough, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't go back to when I don't have any planning board
But we're
knowledge
talking
before it
about,
was combined.
So the zoning officer can read the ordinances, or somebody can read the ordinances to see if something's changed or if it's incorporated in the current ordinances.
Oh my
all.
God, I'm gonna go online right now. You're paying me anyway. Keep on talking.
Yeah, I'm trying to look too, John.
I'd volunteer, but every time I go in there, it takes me hours to find something. I'm just afraid that as much as the zoning code has been updated to remove errors and put into a user-friendly format, it still seems to be an Easter egg hunt when you're trying to find an answer.
Sure is.
So I'm glad we accomplished that, but
Well, maybe that's gonna be a recommendation to make it more user-friendly.
well,
Yeah, I can't even find it.
Well, you can't find what? Look for the B, you can't find the B1 or B2 zone?
No,
Or you
I
can't-
know where they are. I can't find the darn zoning book in here now.
Go
it's
to
linked
our-
to the Greenwich
our-
Township website somewhere.
Our
Yeah, I'm on
government,
it.
our government township code.
Oh, all right. I was down under the other one. There it is.
But I mean, the table of contents has 77 items, and I'm not even sure where to start most of the time. But
Access the township code by clicking here, Paul, bottom
Yeah,
of
no, I got it.
destiny.
I'm there. I was on the wrong area.
everybody take notes. Everybody go to your website and follow along.
I think we're slowing it down.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Yeah, we've spent our hour on this, man.
Here,
Too
here we
many
go.
people
Whoa.
are too many people are searching at the same time.
The B1 district is ordinance section 16-11.27, and the B2 district is ordinance section 16-11.28. I'm going into the B1 right now, and let's see. Nope, that's signs in the B1 and B2, okay?
Yeah.
Well, since we have a lot of resources sitting here, why don't we take this offline and somebody can,
Well,
I mean, I still think the zoning officer should be the one to probably give us a definitive
yeah,
answer.
why
but-
don't you ask him, because I don't want to charge outside this meeting.
Permitted use is 16-13-2.
Okay, so what's the answer?
Well,
You want to look for, it's not going to be under permitted uses.
It's going to be
No.
under conditional uses.
Conditional, well, that's here too. Conditional. Golf, cemetery, home occupation, residence. Yeah, it's not saying anything about churches or house of worships. Place of worship, F. 16-13.3, place of worship, a conditional use, B1.
You sure that's the B1 zone?
Yep.
Nope, that's the R7 zone you're in there, Paul.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yep. Okay.
Listen, Ray, take this offline, ask the zoning
Yep,
officer.
I agree with you. We'll ask. Is it Larry?
Larry, yep.
Yeah, let's ask Larry to weigh in on this, and if he can't figure it out, maybe we'll have to have Mike do it, but at the end of the day, we'll get an answer. And I think that's the only one in J that we really, it's really an open issue as far as I can tell. 4 was done. 2 was our choice. So.
And number 1, the scenic resource inventory, I have a feeling that that's connected to the scenic character protection.
Yep.
Well, you made progress. You went through her outline for item 1.
Yeah, I don't think we actually finished much, but at least we know where we have to go with some of these things. So it's a good progress.
All right, so for May, as we said before, we've got Mike C, Mike and Kendra D, Mike and Kendra E, and Kendra for G, and Mike for H. And I doubt if we'll get through all of those, but
I think we'll get through them all, Bruce, and I think we're going to have to limit our time on those because we're going to have some hearings coming up as well. We have a couple applications that are
Right.
coming back around. That Ross application's coming around. There's another one, Susanna, that's going into Best Buy. I forget who that is.
Big Lots.
Big Lots. So we do have a couple of hearings that are coming up, and we're going to have to fit this into the meetings in addition to those hearings. So it's good that we made progress tonight because we may not have a lot of other meetings where we don't have anything else on the agenda.
So is the plan for May, since we have stuff coming up, to have this first on the agenda and have a hard stop after an hour?
Well, I would want to do the applicants first before we got into this.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, although it's hard to put a hard stop on an application and then guarantee that we'll have an hour to dedicate to this. So it's kind of a,
either not doing this or you'll doing it at 11 o'clock at night.
yeah, well, I don't think we want to be doing it at 11 o'clock at night, but yeah, I would say let's see what we have on the agenda in terms of applications. If the applications look relatively simple, like we can do them in, a half an hour, 20 minutes, then we could probably give the applicants the courtesy of getting on and getting done and then move on to doing this. If it looks like an application would carry over, I would suggest we put an hour on from 7:30 to 8:30 on this and then start the application at 8:30. Because if we're going to carry it over anyway, if it's something that's more than a one meeting application. I mean, to me, that makes the most sense.
You're the chairman. You're in control of the agenda.
Well, not really, but I think that just makes the most sense. Because I don't like having a bunch of applicants sitting around waiting while we do this necessarily, since they would probably have to be in the meeting early and then sit through all this, which is of no importance to them. But I think we have to be flexible is what I'm saying at the end of the day, depending on what's on our agenda, how we manage it. But I think we made good progress this evening. I mean, we have a better idea of what we need to find out, and that's a start. So I appreciate everybody contributing. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands, because a lot of people have been mostly silent this evening, that if you have any thoughts on this, don't be afraid to chime in. That's the whole idea, is to get input. So please don't be bashful if you have thoughts or ideas about this master plan stuff. And that's all I got. So anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Right before you make that motion, I just wanted to put on record that when I did the roll call, I did list the alternates, and Andrea Sherlaw is actually alternate 1. Pam Peslis is alternate 4, I'm sorry. Bill Cognac is alternate 3, and Jeremy Blunt is alternate 1. Just so it's correct.
Hallelujah. I'm glad we got that all figured out. That was
And can I make a suggestion that you email out a member list, a 2021 member list to everybody?
Sure.
and
All members, okay.
include everyone's contact, like an email and preferably a good phone contact.
Can you say that again? I hate going through this, but I want to make sure you get it right.
Susanna, just say it one more time slowly.
So Jeremy Blunt is alternate 2.
Okay, because you just said he was 1.
You said number 1 for him. You had.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Number 1 twice.
No, number 1 is Andrea. Let me read it again so it's on the record. So Andrea Sherlaw is an alternate 1. Jeremy Blunt is alternate 2. Bill Cognac is alternate 3. And Pam Peslis is alternate 4.
Okay. Frank, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you,
Thank you.
Susanna.
Yeah. Ray, I had one suggestion regarding the master plan, because it looks like there's 10 sections. So I was going to suggest, since there's 10 board members, And, just given there's a history and a lot of depth in each one, I mean, might I suggest we could assign one DRI to each section? I know that they'll need the support in certain areas, but that way we have someone, at least for this year or even into next year, that can, be really the expert on that particular item.
I'm fine with that. If we want to go through and get people to volunteer, I'll take B.
In our last meeting, in our last meeting, we said we'd rather do it all together. We didn't want certain like.
Yeah, that's fine, Frank. I was just going to suggest it because I think what's new this meeting is we're now faced with the budget constraints. So it was just a suggestion.
I understand. I mean, I think we kind of already addressed that.
Okay.
We thought that's just giving you my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And we thought we'd rather all do it together.
All right.
Well, I don't have any objection if anybody wants to do a deep dive on this. So what I'll say, John, you had offered to send out these master plans. You said you could do that quickly at the flip of a key. Maybe just resend the background information to everybody tonight when we get off, so that we all have it.
It might be in multiple emails, but I'm going to send out all the existing master plan elements that I have, and I'm going to send out again the 2012 re-examination report. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. Is that all in Acrobat format, so it's searchable?
Yes.
Because I think that would help. We can all search for we could.
In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send it to the board secretary and let her send it to everyone to make sure that, I have all the email addresses correct.
Yeah, even better.
That works. Yeah.
All right, and if we want to take down 16-17.2 permitted uses B1, all the way down to G is houses of worship.
What ordinance section do you say that is?
16-17.2.
And you said that's B1 or B2 or both?
B1.
So it includes houses of worship, but not municipal offices, or what was the other thing?
Institutional uses.
Institutional uses.
Paul, give me that ordinance number again.
16-17.2. Ordinance number is actually 1999-1.
See, that makes no sense, Paul, because that's 1999.
I understand that, but that's what I'm reading.
Listen, Ray, I think you should ask the zoning officer.
Yeah, Susanna has that on her
I do.
to-do list. Yeah, because 1999 would have been long before this re-examination report. So why would we add it if it was already there? Makes no sense. I don't think.
And here's the other thing. Paul, 17.2 is permitted uses.
Yes.
The recommendation was to make it a conditional use, 17.4.
Okay.
So the recommendation was to remove it as permitted and make it conditional. So it's not, I'm looking at 16-17.4, it's not conditional. And 17.2, it absolutely is permitted. So the recommendation was not followed through on.
Okay.
So the recommendation might have actually implied that they want to remove it as a permitted use and make it a conditional use.
Yes, correct. It's coming back to me.
So yeah, we should ask Larry that, because if it turns out that that was recommended and hasn't been done, then the next question is, what are the reasons? But we can get into that once we get the answer.
Right.
Okay.
And just to follow this through.
So not to put too sharp a point on it, but we're back where we were 45 minutes ago when I said, let's ask Larry.
Right. And Ray, just for purposes of completeness of the record, section 16-18 is the B2. And I'll let Paul check, but I don't see houses of worship as permitted, and it's not conditional either.
Yeah, no, I'm not seeing it either. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, maybe the verdict there is we leave it alone, leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, but that's just confirm the way it is, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, anyone?
Thought you asked for a
Anyone
motion
on
to
the
adjourn.
Applebee's? What?
I thought you asked for a motion to adjourn about 10 minutes ago.
I did, but I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
nobody else, I mean, Andrew, you had a pretty good idea,
that's-
but
that's
nobody
true.
jumped
That's
all
true.
over that.
Yeah.
I volunteered for B. I mean, I took B. I'll
You-
admit, I was,
You did.
I was cherry picking that because it's done.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The
Have a
meeting
nice
is
night.
adjourned.
Have a
Good
nice
night.
night,
Oh, quick
everybody.
question.
Oh, a question.
Is Applebee's bar actually open?
No.
Okay.
Table sitting only.
All right.
Well,
All right.
Bruce, if you want to go there, I'll meet you and get something to eat.
Yeah, I'll go.
All right, I'll be there.